Hello students, today we are going to discuss the nervous system of Petromyzon. Petromyzon is an organism under class Cyclostomata which includes the organisms which have circular mouth. So in Petromyzon the nervous system is very well developed and it is very similar to that of the vertebrates, the whole vertebrate series, but the parts of brain, the parts of nervous system are relatively of primitive type. So let's start with the nervous system of Petromyzon. So as I told you earlier, the nervous system of Petromyzon is very well developed and it is similar to that found in the vertebrates, though it is in a relatively primitive condition. So the nervous system of Petromyzon is studied in three parts: the central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system and the autonomous nervous system. The central nervous system comprises of the brain and the spinal cord, while the peripheral nervous system consists of the cranial and spinal nerves. In the autonomous nervous system, we study the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. So first of all, we are going to discuss the central nervous system, which consists of a brain and the spinal cord enclosed in a single membrane, the meninx. The nerves are non-myelinated. The brain of Petromyzon has three parts: forebrain or presencephalon, midbrain or mesencephalon, and hindbrain or rhombencephalon. So here in this picture you can see the nervous system of the brain of the Petromyzon has three parts. These three parts are differentially demarcated from each other. The forebrain consists of at the foremost region, a pair of olfactory lobes are present. Behind the olfactory lobes, pair of cerebral hemispheres are present. The cerebral hemispheres are kind of bean shaped, and in the end of the forebrain, diencephalon is present. So the cavity of the brain are called as ventricles and they are continuous throughout the brain from the forebrain up to the hindbrain, and the cavity is continuous in the cavity of the spinal cord. These cavities are known as the ventricles. So in the forebrain you can see the olfactory lobes are present, the cerebral hemisphere are present and the diencephalon is present. On the dorsal border of the lateral wall of diencephalon are two ganglia habenula, the right ganglia habenula and the left ganglia habenula. The right one is larger than the left. They are connected with the pineal apparatus that gives off a pineal or a median eye. Below the diencephalon is a small flattened pituitary body. A broad infundibulum lies attached beneath the diencephalon. Diencephalon encloses the cavity which is known as the third ventricle or the diastole. So behind the forebrain, the midbrain is present. The midbrain consists of optic lobes which are not clearly differentiated in case of Petromyzon, and the central region of the roof of the midbrain is formed merely of a layer of epithelium. So when the membrane of the brain are removed, an aperture is left which is covered in the entire organ by choroid plexus. So you can say the midbrain consists of a pair of optic lobe and the choroid plexus. The optic nerves differ from those of the higher classes of vertebrates in the fact that a chiasma or intercrossing fiber between the nerves of the right and left side is not very well developed in case of Petromyzon. Now the hindbrain or rhombencephalon. The hindbrain is differentiated into a dorsal small transverse band, the cerebellum. The cerebellum is in the form of a transverse band, and a much longer dorsal medulla oblongata. In the brain, the small size of the cerebellum is very notable in case of Petromyzon. It is a mere transverse band which roofs the anterior end of the metacele. The cavity present in the medulla oblongata is the fourth ventricle or the rhinocele, which is continuous with the cavity of the spinal cord. Then the spinal cord is a transparent band-like structure which is dorsoventrally flattened. It is composed of the gray matter, which is in the form of a longitudinal band surrounded by white matter. The two are not sharply differentiated. So this was all about the central nervous system of Petromyzon. Now the peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system comprises the cranial and spinal nerves. In case of Petromyzon, there are 10 cranial nerves which are present in Petromyzon. The cranial nerves that we are discussing here are also present in all the groups of vertebrates except that in higher vertebrates 12 pairs are present, but in case of Petromyzon only 10 cranial nerves are present. So these 10 cranial nerves are olfactory, optic, oculomotor, patheticus, trigeminal, abducens, facial, auditory, glossopharyngeal or pneumatic, and vagus nerve. The olfactory and optic nerve are both sensory in nature and they arise from the forebrain. The oculomotor and patheticus are both motor nerves and they arise from the midbrain. Trigeminal, abducens, facial, they arise from the metencephalon and the trigeminal is the mixed nerve. It has three branches. Abducens is a motor nerve and facial is a sensory nerve. Then auditory, glossopharyngeal and vagus. These three arise from the myelencephalon and of these the auditory is the sensory and glossopharyngeal and vagus are mixed nerves. So these are the 10 cranial nerves which are present in Petromyzon. Next is spinal nerves. The spinal nerves have two roots, the dorsal and the ventral roots. They do not unite with each other, they remain separated, but they are present alternate to each other. The dorsal and the ventral roots of spinal nerves are present alternatively. The dorsal root bears a ganglion. Then the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system has a segmental sympathetic ganglia. They are not connected with one another and the sympathetic trunk is lacking here. Preganglionic sympathetic fibers emerge from the spinal cord through the dorsal spinal nerves. So this was all about the nervous system of Petromyzon. Thank you.